Gwyneth Card, Associate Professor of Neuroscience at the Mortimer B. Zuckerman Mind-Brain Behavior Institute at Columbia University. One of the mysteries about how our brain works is actually how the different parts of it talk to each other. So for example, our eyes are receiving information that gets represented in terms of visual coordinates. Is something above me or below me, to my left or to my right? But then those signals need to actually get converted into a motor language that tells our body, should I move my foot forward or backward, left or right? Now, with the fly, we can actually just look inside the brain and see this transformation from sensory to motor happening. We wanted to look at fly behavior in individual flies, but actually for thousands or tens of thousands of flies, so that we could understand the variability in the behavior and we could use some of our genetic tools to silence or activate parts of the brain while we study the behavior. In order to do this, we built a customized machine we call the Fly Pez, which dispenses individual flies, much like those old Pez candy dispensers. And using this machine, we can introduce a single fly onto a small platform that's underneath a dome that's much like a domed IMAX screen, onto which we can show a movie of what the fly would see if a predator were attacking it. It's a dark circle that expands rapidly on the fly's eye, just as if it's about to be eaten. And then we record in high-speed video how the fly responds to that movie. Using Drosophila, we can not only look at their behavior, but we can actually go deeper. We can actually go directly into the brain, into the individual neurons, and try to pick apart how individual neurons are contributing to the processing of these predator-like stimuli. What we found is that, in fact, there are individual neurons in the fly's brain that detect when there's a threat from behind the fly, and other ones that detect when there's a threat from in front of the fly. And those neurons are connected to neurons elsewhere in the fly's brain that tell the fly whether to jump forward or jump backward to go the appropriate way to escape the predator. It's a really exciting time to be a fly researcher because one of the exciting new tools we have available now is called a connectome. But what was still missing from this puzzle was exactly what was going on in the fly's version of a spinal cord, the fly's ventral nerve cord. So recently, our lab, working with several teams from Genelia and from the University of Cambridge, have been able to contribute a full connectome of the tens of thousands of neurons that are in this area that allow us to, for the first time, see how signals coming down from the brain are actually mapped onto all of the muscles of the fly's body. So a question that immediately arises after we've seen the kind of results we've seen is, are flies little robots? We now have a whole map of their brain and their nerve cord. We know how information can get from the fly's eye through 7 synapses all the way to the fly's jumping leg muscle. Does that mean that the fly's behavior should be completely predictable? Well, in fact, a surprise has been that it doesn't seem to be. So in our assay, when we look at flies responding to these virtual predators, flies make different choices, both individuals and across individuals. Why is that? And this is one of the mysteries that's left to be probed in the fly brain. How is it that from what seems like deterministic parts, you actually get very indeterminate behavior? And one of our interesting preliminary findings is that individuality seems to predict a lot about what the fly is going to choose on a moment-to-moment basis. For example, if a hungry fly is on food, it tends to try to escape less than if a hungry fly is not on food. It knows that the food is important to it, even though there might be a risk of being eaten by a predator. This individuality that the flies have seems to last only on the scale of a couple hours. In other words, it seems to potentially be associated with states that the fly is in. And we're really interested in understanding that next.